got arms like legs. He's got hands on his feet. He's got a nose like a donut. He's got a tendency to overeat. He don't use tools or weapons. He don't eat meat. He likes to stick to the bushes. Tends to avoid the street. But he rides my Eldorado, baby, when he comes to town. You know he's out there somewhere, trying to track you down. Look up in the sky, Mama, that's the one.
We're here with our good friend Garrett J. Brown. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He can pretty much play everything. He's a songwriter.
Cheers.
Cheers. He's a producer, a mixing engineer, a performer, and
an all-around swell dude.
that's for sure.
I'm a swell guy. I'm a nice enough guy.
I wanted to start off by asking, when was the first time you felt like you started to have a passion for music?
Ooh. Well, I would say probably like I was in the 10th grade in the school band. I started to write percussion arrangements just for fun. And I just got like a lot of great feedback from my band director and what have you. And he was the first one who told me like, hey, I think you could, like you have it. Like you have that thing, that intangible thing. And that was all I needed to just like dive right in and just start being creative.
I'm curious to ask, was that percussion like drums percussion? Was that xylophone, marimba stuff, or was it a mixture of both? Like,
yeah, it was some keyboard percussion, and as well as, bass drum, snare drum, that whole thing. I think I did, what was it? I did an arrangement of Little Drummer Boy, and
Cool.
It was in like 7/4 time. And I didn't know what that
Yes.
was, you know what I mean?
Sure.
I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it came off well.
That's funny you say that. When I wrote and recorded my first album when I was 18. It was rough around the edges, to say the least.
Yeah.
But one of the songs was in 7/4 time, and I didn't know what that was until the person recording me told me what that was.
Yeah. That's the thing, man. It just sounded good.
Yeah.
It just sounded good.
It's kind of a freedom in not being like overwhelmed by the knowledge of what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I wonder what kind of music I would be making if I didn't seek any formal training. What just like my natural self would be doing by now.
Yeah. Didn't we establish that our high school marching bands probably...
We were in the same stadium.
We were in the same stadium
At
at
some
least
point.
once in high school.
1,000%.
I think that's so fun. I think that's really cool.
Then here we are.
And here we are
in
now.
Texas. Half a country
Texas.
away.
That's right. So I know you as a guitarist, but is guitar the first thing you started playing, or was it percussion first?
It was percussion. I joined the marching band when I was in the 6th grade, or beginner band, I should say. My sister was a majorette and dancer, and so I would always go to her competitions and performances with the band, the football games and stuff. And I always thought it was cool. I always thought the drum line was cool. But I found out that they went to Disney World like every year. And so that's really the reason why I joined band, is because I knew at the end of the school year I'd go to Disney.
Classic.
And I didn't know it would have such a vast impact.
Right. That's why I joined AP Environmental Science, because they went to Six Flags Fiesta Texas every year.
Nice. I got a season pass to Fiesta Texas.
Nice.
You let me know if you want to relive those
You have 'em
memories.
now?
Yeah, right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I got them.
Ooh.
On my phone wallet.
We'll have to go.
Listen.
Yeah, man.
Let's
Definitely have to
go.
go.
Oh, I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for rides, dude. I let it just dictate my entire life.
I love it. I have another question for you.
Yes.
Can you recall the first time that you really thought of yourself as a musician and or an artist? And did they were those separate things? Did they come at the same time? What did that progression look like for you as you started to identify as those things?
Well, I after the school band, I remember I went to I was in like an advanced placement history class or something like that, and they got up the summer before school even started. I think it was before my 8th grade year, and I really didn't want to go. I thought it was going to be ridiculous. I really didn't want to go, but I had met this kid who was listening to the same kind of music that I did, and he was a guitar player. He had been taking lessons. He was kind of like a virtuoso, a prodigy, I should say. He was still an incredible guitar player. But he asked me, like, hey, do you want to... I can teach you how to play bass. That's what he said. He's like, I can teach you how to play bass. That's going to be easy. So I started going over to his house. Then from there, started bands, got into some bands. And then it was probably my first show where I felt that moment with like my own like original material, just me and my friends. It was at like a small art gallery in downtown Panama City, Florida. And just like the first time I actually got to like play something that I wrote and like see the reaction on everybody else's, you know, just like my peers, you know, they were like accepting me. That's like the first time I feel like I found like who I was and like what really I'm drawn to.
How old were you then?
I was probably like, I think I could drive. I was probably like 16, you know, I was probably
That's
like
so
freshly
cool.
16, something like that.
To feel that at 16 is like, I feel like that's really cool knowing that in teenage years, when usually that's such a fraught time for anybody trying to figure out who they are, where they're headed, to have that kind of experience at 16 would be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a curse though, like knowing, like a lot of people have the opposite issue where they're like, I don't know what to do with my life. My problem is I've known for so long, you know, and that I just let it drive me crazy.
That's actually a great segue into another thing I wanted to ask you about and just hear more about. We've talked about this briefly. We were in the car one time and I was asking you about it, but I would love to know more about how you have gotten to the point where you're monetizing what you're doing well enough for it to be a significant portion of your income.
Yes.
That's a very, very difficult thing to do
For
in the
sure.
music scene. And we have not done that. And a lot of people that I know in Austin, that's the biggest thing that they have a hard time doing. It's very, very rare that I find a musician that is, I'd say maybe 70% of their income is music.
Yeah, easily.
That's hard.
Easily. Yeah, it's still hard. Like I am doing it, and it is definitely still a struggle. A lot of it was, it had to do with COVID. You know, I was working for a production company, you know, helping put on shows, huge shows, you know, the biggest in town for sure. But I was having like an identity crisis of just like, maybe I am just the guy that like brings the amp, you know, maybe I am the guy who just, you know, sets up the equipment for the actual artist to go up and do it. But the money was great. So I was like very comfortable there. But whenever COVID happened, obviously concerts stopped. So the entire company got laid off. And then I was just out there without a paddle. And so I had to just start getting creative about like how I was going to make that transition. And, you know, I was getting like the stimulus checks and what have you. So like it gave me like, I was like, I have a few months to figure this out. Like I have a few months where I can like, you know, set some things up. And I started on Twitch. I just started to play on Twitch I think I did it like 5 days a week at first. I think I ultimately like whittled it down to 3. And it was cool because I've never been someone who like plays like a lot of cover songs, but I was just constantly getting requests. And so, and they would pay me for it. They'd be like, all right, we'll get $30 and if you learn this song. So I was just like learning all these songs, you know, from, across a wide variety of genres and styles. And by the time that everything started to open back up, I had already been like paying at least half of my rent with just Twitch revenue.
Dang. That's amazing.
And I yeah, I had probably, I think, like 6 hours of songs, you know, where I could entertain. And so it was really easy for me to transition, and I just started to go into places. I knew like a few people who were, you know, gigging, just the guy in the corner with the guitar. So I asked them, I got a few shots, and then I was fortunate enough to get enough steady work that I was able, whenever the production company asked me to come back, I was like, actually, I'm good. I'm doing all right.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Twitch is one of those places that I've heard a couple different, well, I know a couple different people who kind of, they're in different places. Like one is, she's primarily a vocalist like myself, plays a little bit of keys. Another who had actually like been signed with a major label for a long time, had been in the larger flow of the industry, and then like slowly just got kind of jaded by the whole process, and so was taking a break, and then he kind of came back to being on Twitch. And it's been really cool seeing how the Twitch community seems to be consistently, like if you can stick with it consistently and show up with consistency, the loyalty around that particular platform seems to be really, really good.
Yeah. It's a stellar spot for that. And it was interesting because I liked to do my streaming like 11 o'clock in the morning, noon, something like that. And so most Americans were not watching. I was like getting a lot of people from overseas, like the Philippines, and
That's so
you know,
cool,
like
though.
just truly all over the world.
Yeah.
And the community there, I do miss it. It was you know, you have fans, you have moderators that come in and they help you handle all of the chat volume and what have you. It was very cool. It was very cool.
That is.
But it was tough because you can't just hop on for 30 minutes. Like
Right.
you have to compound those views in order for you to keep going to the top. So I'd be on there for like 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
You know, and then that's like 4 or 5 hours of me singing, you know? So
yeah.
it was
That's
brutal.
rough.
And doing that 5 days a week, like it was definitely like a trial by fire. I'm glad I did it, but yeah, that's why I don't do it now.
Right.
That, you know, talking about fan base and everything, I think leads to another good question. Have you ever had an experience with a fan of your music that has like really impacted you?
There's a lot of fans that I've had that have become friends. It's honestly the quickest way to become my friend. You know, it's like, that's what I always tell people. Because I'll have like, out in the world, I'll have great friends. And then somebody that I like just talked to one time shows up to a show. And it's just like, that is like the ultimate form of respect to me. Like, I could literally ask nothing else of you. You're already showing me my top tier level of respect by just showing up. I wouldn't say anyone in particular, but my life has definitely been changed by certain fans just because they've entered into my life, I've entered into theirs, and then it just snowballs.
Yeah.
Somebody please help me out, 'cause I'm dying over here. Just heard a string of words that I thought I'd never hear. Sticks and stones, they may break my bones, but a handful of words nearly killed me. This ain't the kind of pain, ain't a doctor out there that can heal me. The same old melody keeps on playing in my head. First thing in the morning when I'm laying in my bed, she said I need to figure out just what my life was all about. Said I gotta spend some time apart, but you'll always have a place in my heart. You'll always have a place in my heart. Bar tabs keep growing while my confidence shrinks. Caught up in what could have been and what doors close to me think. Too many lovers have been here before, but how many others discover they'd rather drown in the drinks they pour? The same old melody keeps on playing in my head. First thing in the morning when I'm laying in my bed, she said I need
figure out just what my life was all about. Said I gotta spend some time apart, but you'll always have a place in my heart. You'll always have a place in my heart. You'll always have a place in my heart. You'll always have a place in my heart.
Thank you so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed that, there's about 15 more minutes of it on our Patreon page. That's exclusive, it's only there. The best way that you can support us as a band is by going to our Patreon and subscribing to us there. It costs about $5 a month. There's some higher tiers, but you can get in for $5 a month. There's exclusive content there, and it's very helpful to us, honestly. We would appreciate it greatly if you would consider doing that. Other than that, Garrett has a bunch of links that you can find below, and we would encourage you to follow him. He's a fantastic musician. He's got a lot of wonderful content. He's got some shows coming up. So please give him a follow, look through his content, and visit us on Patreon.